Hello.
Alright, next.
First, we're going to trace the system from like the input to the board, to the stack, to the speakers, and then we'll go over a few things on the board, and then we'll make sure everybody knows how to wind cords. And we're also going to make sure that you have a general knowledge of everything. I'm gonna kick you, Jason.
Please don't.
He looks like not do it again. He looked like Steven Sutton.
All right. So the signal originates with the person, obviously, singer, musician, whatever. It goes from the microphone to the snake. I'm sure we all have a general idea of that. Snake has a lot of inputs on it. Then back to the soundboard here, through here, into the mixer, goes through its intricate windings and whatnot, and comes out of these. Okay, this is the main output. It's labeled as mono main out. Everything that goes through the board, Danny, stop. Everything that goes through the board comes through this one wire to go to the mains. Okay?
Alright.
These are monitor inputs, or outputs, I guess, by all technicality.
Oh.
And anyway, so when someone says, give me more of such and such in their monitor, you turn it up on the knob, and it changes it coming through here. Then this also goes through the snake because it's more convenient that way for us, because we can just reverse it coming out. So the monitor are in numbers 28 and 27. We don't use monitor 3 because somebody got rid of the module for it. It used to be used as the drum monitor. Okay? Okay. So when these go back to the snake, which then, why are you even doing that? It's not recording.
It is.
No. The red light is faint. Anyways, so it comes back to the snake, labeled respectively 28 and 27, and then they go over to the stack, the power amp, call it what you want. It's the stack of stuff. Now, I want to
Get
pull
this
this out
tripod.
so you can see
I want
it.
this tripod.
Is there any more? Turn on the fan lights someday, please.
No, not the fan lights.
Yes, the fan lights.
That creates lots more static.
Not when nothing's being used.
Uh-huh.
Ugh.
Be careful, don't unplug anything.
Danny, this is the whole point while I'm showing you stuff, so if things do get unplugged, you know how to do it. Okay.
Get this out of here.
Let's get in on this.
Alright, 10's
Okay.
close up.
This is the back of the stack. Power amp.
Yes,
Whatever.
it is.
The things that are labeled over there as 28 and 27. Use a standard XLR cable and it goes from there to here. Here. There's an adapter from XLR to 1/4 inch because that's what comes out of the back of the cord, or back of the board there. Okay. They come into inputs 1 and 2, respectively. Monitor 1 goes into 1, or like the dial on the board for monitor 1 goes into 1, monitor 2 goes into 2. They then go through the monitor module, and they come out of these, which are tied somewhere. They're also labeled as 1 and 2, respectively. So 1 comes out of 1. Currently,
Doesn't make any sense. Not currently, fine.
Currently, number 1 is currently, and this is how it should be. Number one, monitor 1 is generally used for the vocalists. So this speaker cord goes back and around to this monitor. The whole idea behind the color cording stripes is to find it easier. So the triple red coming out of there comes to here, and then we parallel it over to here because there's only one output on the back. Okay? And if you need to, you can parallel it in a third one, fourth one, etc.
Does the power amp give enough power to do that?
Yeah. For these. You're never going to need more than 3, so. Okay, same thing goes.
Just line the whole stick with monitors.
Yes.
Buy the microphone cord.
That's cool. Anyways.
I know, and then they leave all their music.
Then number 2, coming out of there, comes back to the drum monitor, and then that's parallel to the hotspot for the lead vocalist.
Yes.
Guitar playing vocalist. Whatever.
Yes.
Okay?
One comes to the front, 2 goes to the back.
Right.
Two
Well,
also goes to that.
this one is basically 1 is for the vocalist, 2 is for the instrumentalist. Generally, the bass player doesn't really use a monitor, but
They can hear it.
excuse me, they can if they want. Okay, that's the monitors. If you're ever having monitor problems, first thing to go do is come back to the board and make sure. Okay, let's just say lead guitar, direct in 1, direct input, direct box, whatever. So, well, okay, let me backtrack. If you're not getting anything out of the monitors, the first thing to do is to check these 2. These are the main monitor outs. Okay, so monitor 1, monitor 2 respectively. That'll send however much signal out here, back to the stack and through the monitors. If these are up and you've got some kind of volume, you know that that's not the problem. Then you need to check these and make sure some kid didn't come by and just turn them all down, because it's happened before.
Possible.
Okay, so then you want to make sure that you have some kind of volume up here. If it's up anywhere past 0, you're going to get something, or you should. If you're still not getting anything, then follow back from here, looking at what the snake numbers are, and go back to the snake and trace that cord to the stack. Make sure it's plugged into whatever channel out it's supposed to be in. Okay? Also, make sure that somebody didn't flip the switch for that one monitor module on the stack, and so that one's not being turned on, because there's several power switches up the stack. Okay? So make sure that is on. Make sure that the cords in the back are plugged in all the way. Those banana jacks, the 2-prong ones for the speaker cables, they're very loose, so they come out very easily, like they can just fall out. So if you're not getting anything out the monitors, check those as well. Okay. Also on the back of that monitor module, there's 2 knobs, gains for each monitor. Those need to be something greater than 0. They're set now where they should be. You should never have to mess with them. But that's how you diagnose the monitor. And then if you're still not getting anything, it's the monitor itself. Try a different monitor.
There's one in the closet.
Yeah. Bring one out of the closet, whatever. Okay? That's the monitors. The main works virtually the same way. It comes out of channel 32. So we go back to the snake, and track 32 back to the stack. Okay, so 32 comes from there. There's a cord, an XLR cable plugged in, and that goes right here. Okay. Wait a second. Sorry, I stand corrected. The XLR cable for the main comes to this top right here. And basically what that module does is it deciphers between the mains and the subwoofers. So the input comes into the very top, it's on the far side. It's written on there, it says channel 1 input. There's also a channel 2 input if you want to have left-right instead of mono. Okay? But we don't need that. Mono works for this room or anywhere that we would ever take this system.
Mono comes out of both speakers.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing comes out of both. Like, whereas your iPod, the headphones, you're going to get something coming out of the left one and something else coming out of the right one. Gives it a more live sense.
There we go.
Yeah. So the main input comes on the far side. Then you've got one labeled as high and one labeled as low. Low is obviously the subs. Okay, so that one, there's a short XLR that goes from the subs. It'll be low output down to this bottom module to the input. Make sense? Where does this come from?
Oh, you're the expert.
George, keep filming. I must get a drink.
Well, we'll track that later because that shouldn't. Okay, so that input goes down to here, right here. Okay, and then that goes through the module and out these sub cables. Okay, speaker cables going to the subs. They're loose. They're taped in right. They're kind of taped together right now because they don't stay. Then one of them goes to this sub, and then it's paralleled from that sub to that sub. Okay, same thing goes for the main speakers. It comes out this top one right here to the main input channel 1 through to the speaker outputs here. Okay, to here and then paralleled over to there. That's how that works. Now, if you're not getting any of the mains, whether it be speakers or subwoofers,
Jason, what are you?
you come back here. The first thing to do is to make sure that the button for left-right is pressed down. If it's up, it's not going to come out. It's not going to send any feed through to the mains. If none of the buttons are pressed, it's not going to send any feed anywhere. If the 1 and 2 is pressed, it'll send it to the monitor's 1 and 2 output.
So which
Sometimes those buttons work.
1 and 2 and
Hold
left.
on.
Right.
Sometimes those buttons work, sometimes it doesn't. Occasionally, for whatever reason, sometimes the 1 and 2 button can be up and it still come out from the monitors. I don't know why, it just does. But typically, the 1 and 2 buttons, basically all 3 of these buttons need to be pressed. That way,
On all of them.
Blast.
yeah, that way nothing. That way there's no problems. And then, if you think it's pressed, but it may not be, so press it down, or like press it, and if it comes up, then obviously it was already on. But the left and right button has to be down for anything to come out of the mains. That's the first problem. I've seen that happen lots of times. Nobody can figure it out. It's only coming out of the monitors, and back here it sounds terrible because it's very muffled. And so you keep turning it up, and you get nothing. Okay? That's the first thing. Then the main volume has to be somewhere up. it cannot be all the way to the bottom or you're not going to get any volume. Apparently, there's this little note that says this button has to be up for the speakers to work. That's a problem with the soundboard. Well, no, that's because now we don't have it going to a tape recorder. That's the reason why. So, that button has to be up for the mains to work. Okay? These sliders don't do anything.
So we'll design that.
Yeah, well,
They look
sure,
neat.
if you want to do that, then you can do that. Make it look like you know what you're doing.
Like a happy face.
Because we don't have any assigned sub-channels. We could do that. We could put in all of, and maybe this may be something to do, where we can assign any of, say, assign all of the vocals to sub-channel 1, assign all the instrumentalists to sub-channel 2, and then media to sub-channel 3, and then that way you can, if all of the voices are low, you can turn up just the voices. We may work on that, but right now that's not the issue. Okay? The mute buttons are pretty obvious. When it's down, it's muted. If the red light is on, you're not going to get anything in the monitor or the mains. I'm sure you know about this, but future people may not know about it. Okay?
I did not know about it. Again.
Okay. Also, there is a you can plug in a set of headphones back here. It will take me a minute to find it, but there is a jack labeled for headphones somewhere. Where are those plugged into right now?
Nothing.
Okay. It will be a 1/4 inch jack, so you'll have to have an adapter of some kind. No, that's for the computer. Sub presets. Phones. Yep, right there. So you can put in phones 1 to listen. That way you can listen to any of these to help yourself pick it out of the main mix. You'll press the PRE button. It's pre-fade listening.
That's
Okay.
Free button is okay.
Yep.
I have no idea.
Or at least that's what it's supposed to be.
Who knows if it works?
Which button? The PRE button.
Because I noticed that some of
Press
those were.
that down, it'll send a feed to the headphones. And then there's a...
Doesn't matter if it's sound or not. I mean, if there's no headphones.
If there's no headphones, it doesn't matter.
Cool.
Blast.
What are you looking for? Adapter?
There is... Okay, here's the phones level to increase or decrease the volume to the headphones. And it's pre-fade listening, which means it's just the signal. If you raise or lower the slider, it's not going to change what's coming. It's giving you the signal before the fader. Okay? Make sense?
Wait, is that for
So
the
if you
thing?
you raise the fader, it's not going to change the volume of the guitar or the vocalist in your ear. Okay? But it just helps you to pick out what you're looking for. Danny, quit picking locks. This is a church, you know. Okay, just a little bit about a general mix. Typically, for a church setting, this is not a rock concert, so you don't need a whole bunch of subs. You also want to be able to hear the higher frequencies. The female singers, the high, okay, basically you got high, mid, and low frequencies. Okay, you want the high typically to be higher than everything else. You want to be able to hear the crisp sounds. You want to keep the female, their microphones up a little higher than the guys. Okay, you don't want to hear all of low end bass voices. Doesn't sound good. It'll sound very tinny and muffled. So you want to have some high. You want to have some midtones. Your midtones are going to be your guitars, your acoustic guitars. Your lows are going to be your lower voices, subs, bass, yeah. Even some of the lower end guitars, like lower end strings on the guitar, like the low E. So you want to have some of that. That'll be a lot, yeah, where all your guitars, most of your instruments are, and your lows, obviously we just talked about those. So I mean, basically, I like to have the high set higher than anywhere else. Set the low somewhere where it sounds good. You're just gonna have to play with it by ear, but you want it to sound clear, crisp, and just to sound good. It'll kind of take a little bit of listening. The pan knob does nothing. That's only if you've got it set on left and right. The pan means that it'll put more of the volume coming out whichever side you pan it to. It's kind of like in your car, you have a balance and a fade.
Yeah.
It's a balance of left and right, or fade front to back. It's just like that. It's balancing between left and right. The frequency knobs, for what's being used here, you really don't need to adjust them. Just leave them at the top dead center. And I mean, you can play with it. It's not going to hurt anything. If you think it sounds better to turn it up or down, go for it. But you really don't need to.
Wait, turn what up or down?
The frequency knob.
Oh.
For what's being used in here, it doesn't need it. Okay. Okay. Along the top we have the gain. It's labeled as trim, but it really is gain. You don't want to be getting any red lights down here flashing. You want greens only. If you're getting red flashing light, it means it's overloading the system.
Oh, yeah.
And you can fry the channel, you can fry the speakers, you can do damage.
Blow up the outpost.
So, when you see a red light, you want to turn the gain down a little bit. Okay, the fader's not going to do much with the red light. If you're looking for more volume out of the speakers, you want to raise and lower the main mix. And that'll put bouncing green lights on these. That's the output levels. You don't want them to get into the red for sure. If it hits the yellow a little bit, that's fine. Keep it somewhere in the green, but that's still going to be pretty stinking loud. You won't ever need that in here. That's the main volume. Anything else? I can't really think of anything else. Does anybody have any questions?
What does the mute button do again?
Any serious questions?
Do you know what the solo button does?
Yep. It makes it so that's the only channel playing.
Yeah, just listen.
And you can solo multiple channels at once.
That's right.
Pointless.
Right.
Well, so if you just wanted to like...
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So, that brought up a good thing is if you're only getting, say, only one guitar, check and make sure the solo button's not down. It'll flash. See how it's flashing? That means it's soloing. So make sure you're not getting any of that. Any other questions? That was a good question.
These control monitors.
Yes, they're labeled. They're numbered on here 1 and 2. And
Hello.
yeah.
How come I'm not seeing you in the next?
Any other questions? Jason, any questions?
I can't see it.
George, Zach, no questions?
That's it.
think
You
it's
explained
good.
a lot to me, dude.
What?
I said you explained a lot.
Good.
Yeah,
I hope it wasn't an overload.
understand a lot.
There's no red light flashing. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, don't let